Hello guys, welcome to iTutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with the verbal and non-verbal communication, that is unit 11. In last video, we already discussed till 11.3 subsections. That's about the communication. In today's session, we will start with the verbal and non-verbal communication. A communication in which words are used can be called verbal communication. Okay, wherever the words are using, that is verbal communication. Communication over long distance takes place usually through verbal communication. As an adjective, this is the non-verbal communication, which refers to the use of body language in communicating ideas from the sender to the receiver. We already discussed how communication passing through sender to receiver, and non-verbal communication most often takes place unconsciously, and it may either fortify or supplement the verbal communication, or may at times negate the very purpose of verbal communication. Okay, and let us examine each these one by one. The main characteristics of verbal communication is the use of words either written or spoken. Written communication include personal letters, memorandum, and policy and procedure manuals, and notice placed on the notice board. There is examples of also there. Both written and oral communication have their merits and demerits. A written communication has the advantages of being easily verified and of being more precisely defined if there arises a need for subsequent correction. Spoken message cannot always be verified so easily. Secondly, because a written communication is likely to be a permanent record, we are more particular in making it precise and accurate. Thirdly, its lengthy and complicated message are better understood if they are put in writing. It would be difficult to understand and retain a lengthy message if it were wholly in oral form. Together with these advantages, written communication have some drawback also. Okay, some of these are: what is the first drawback? It is the slower method of communication if we consider the total amount of time involved from the formulation of idea by the sender to the understanding of the idea by the receiver. Okay, a written communication compete with all other written materials that reaches the desk of an executive. As such, there can be a gap between the time when a communication reaches the manager's desk and time when he reads it. Moreover, if clarification are needed because the message is not clear to the receiver, further delay would take place. And secondly, despite the fact that the greater degree of preciseness is aimed at while preparing a written communication, there is always a possibility of ambiguity or lack of clarity creeping in, leading to misunderstanding on the part of the receiver. And clarification naturally means delay. Okay, there is the delay in that. And lastly, it's the over reliance on written communication can lead to too much of paperwork in the organization. This is not only consume time, money and energy, but also indicate a lack of trust among the employees of the organization. It has been observed that when trust is low and suspicious are high in an organization, an over reliance on written communication is likely to occur. Okay, next one is oral communication. In oral communication, although an organization cannot function without written communication of various kinds, yet by far the greater percentage of information is communicated orally. It has been observed that managers spend 60 to 80% of their work time in oral communication. Oral communication has the merit of being more rapid. Okay, easily we can communicate to orally, right? Generally, the spoken word is a quicker and less complicated way of getting one idea across another person. Again, it offers the potential of two-way information flow and therefore less possibility of misunderstanding the communication. The creation of a less formal atmosphere and the generation of fellow feeling are the additional advantage brought about through oral communication. And next is choosing your words. Okay, you have read earlier that communication refers to the transmission of meaning from the sender to the receiver. Such a transmission take place through the use of symbols, whether verbal or non-verbal. In verbal communication, the symbol is a word. in order that the transmission of meaning take place, it is important that the particular symbol, the symbol means the word we are using for the communication, used must create within the mind of the receiver the same image which was in the mind of the sender of the communication. It is only then that the basic purpose of communication, which is to influence the behavior of the receiver, will be achieved. It has been found that words do not necessarily have commonly understood meaning. The abstract words like participation or democracy or satisfactory suffer from difficulty that different people are likely to attach different meaning to these words. The greater the use of such abstract words, the bigger the difficulty in bring about an understanding of the message and a change in behavior through communication. Okay. And the Keith Davis in his well-known book Human Behavior at Work, Organizational Behavior. Okay, that's his book about the communication. He has suggested a few guidelines for making verbal communication more effective. Okay, so you just go through this use of simple words, phrases, and use short and familiar words are there, use personal pronouns wherever appropriate, and give illustration and examples, use short sentence and paragraph, etc., etc. And use body language in determining the effectiveness of communication. In the sense of effective a change in the behavior, nonverbal communication has important role to play. Experts in the field of human communication have found that in a typical message between two persons, only about 7% of the meaning or content of the message is carried by the actual words being used, right? And another 38% of the message is carried by one's tone of voice, which include pacing, time, pause, accent, etc. And the major part of 55% of the content of the message is in nonverbal form. In other words, in the form of our physical attitude going along with our verbal message. The physical attitude is also referred to as the body language. And non-verbal communication can take place with our action or with our body gestures. For example, a manager who pound his fist on the table while announcing that from now on participative management will be practiced in his organization creates a credibility gap between what he says and what he practices. Okay, and manager who says that he believes in an open door policy for all his employees but is busy with his own files while an employee is giving him a certain suggestion towards important improvement in work environment, is making non-verbal communication quite in conflict with his verbal communication. In such a situation, the non-verbal messages is strong one and a verbal message will cease to be effective. Okay, and some of the non-verbal action which assist communication include maintaining eye contact, occasionally nodding the head in agreement, and smiling and showing animation, leaning towards the speaker, and speaking at a moderate rate in a quiet one. Some of the non-verbal action that impede the communication are looking away or turning away from the speaker, and sneer or using the gestures. Okay, and closing your eyes, and using an unpleasant tone of voice, speaking too slow or too fast. So these are some communication actions through non-verbal uh, and verbal communication. Okay, so you just go through the material also, IGNOU material, and read full of this non-verbal and verbal communication. In IGNOU term and examination may be asked this question also. And next one is channels of communication. What are the channels? Okay, an organization structure provides channel for the flow of information on which the decision of the organization will be based. As such, an organization can be described as the network of communication channels. These channels can be either intentionally designed or they may develop of their own accord. When a channel is intentionally prescribed for the flow of communication in the organization, we call it that is formal channel, and the communication passing through the channel as formal communication. On the other hand, when communication take place through channel not intentionally designed, in other words outside the formal channel, such a channel are referred to as a informal channel, and the communication as informal communication. Okay, and in formal communication, an organization chart show the direction of formal communication flow in an organization. It identifies the various transmitters and receivers and the channel through which they must communicate. The authority relationship indicate the direction of communication flow in an organization. A formal or communication take place between a superior and a subordinate in the form of instruction and direction, such as flow take place in the downward direction. Okay, and network, what are the networks in formal communication? You have seen earlier how formal organizational structure prescribes the channel through which communication flow take place. These channels are designed to keep the flow of information in an orderly manner and to protect the higher level managers from an overload of unnecessary information. However, the way in which these channels are designed and work can affect the speed and accuracy of information as well as the task performance and satisfaction of members of the group. As such, managers have to think of how best to design the organizational structure and the communication network which meets the requirement of the situation. Okay, this is the formal network. There is a wheel kind of there, Y shape is there, chain shape is there, circle is there. Okay, these are the formal network system. And to test the effect of the various communication structure, a series of experiments involved simple as well as complex problems were conducted. The studies demonstrate that network centrality was the critical feature that determined whether a particular communication pattern was effective and satisfying to the members for a particular type of task. An index of relative centrality was developed for this purpose in order to determine who occupied the central position in each network. It was found that Y and star network are highly centralized, with the C occupying the central position. The circle and chain network were found to be decentralized, with the member being able to influence all other members. Further, experiments to determine how performance and attitude were affected by different communication network showed that centralized network performed faster and more accurately than decentralized network, provided tasks were comparatively simple. For complex tasks, however, the decentralized network were comparatively quicker and more accurate. Okay. And the next is informal communication. In informal communication that take place without following the formal lines of the communication is said to be informal communication. This channel is not created by management and is usually not under the control of management. An informal system of communication is generally referred to as the grapevine because it is spread throughout the organization with its branches going out in all directions in utter disregards of the level of authority and linking members of the organization in any direction. The informal communication arises as a result of employee needs for information which are not met by the formal channels. Okay, and it has been observed that the problem relating to network and unfavorable reaction to various organizational practices are transmitted through informal communication. Since the channel are flexible and establish contact at personal level among members of organization at different hierarchical levels, the grapevine spread information faster than the formal system of communication. Okay, and here also one figure is related to this. You just go through that. And the what are the characteristics of grapevine have been summarized by Keith Davis as follows. First one is people talk most when the news is recent. People talk about things that affect their work, and people talk about people they know. and the people working near each other are likely to be on the same grapevine, and people who contact each other in the chain of procedure tended to be on the same grapevine. Okay, and that's about two sessions, formal and informal communication, that is the channels of communication. Okay, and next part of unit 11 we will discuss on next video. So that's about today's session. If you have any doubt, you can pinpoint on comment box, also you can message or through the contact number also. Okay, thank you.